The irrationalists? What kind of people say that logic is illogical and reason irrational? Well, of one thing we can be 100% certain. These people are not using logic and reason. What then are they using? They're using illogic and unreason, and that's exactly why they reach illogical and irrational conclusions. People say that rationalism is wrong and then try to give reasons why that is the case. How can you be in the game of using reason to attack reason? That obviously won't work. If reason is wrong, you can't use reason to show its wrongness. Existence could not be any simpler. Either everything that happens has a sufficient reason, or there is no reason for anything at all. This is a zero-sum game. There can't be any mixture between sufficient reasons and no reasons at all. There is no way rational syntax can rationally interact with irrational syntax. You can't have laws of physics interacting with laws of magic. You can't have laws of mathematics interacting with non-mathematics. The enemies of rationalism ironically try to use all of the tropes of rationalism in order to refute it. They say things like, this can't be right because of this argument. This is irrational. This is illogical. This makes no rational sense, and so on. How can you use the rationalist form to attack rationalism? Martin Luther, an extremist person of faith, at least had the consistency to openly despise reason. He wrote, "Reason is the devil's whore. Throw dung at her and make her ugly." All irrationalists, i.e. mystics, believers, emotionalists and empiricists, are in exactly the same game. Luther rightly saw reason as the total enemy of faith. He didn't try to argue with rationalists. He simply insisted that if reason ever contradicted faith, then faith was always right. That is the position of an absolute irrationalist. Anyone who attacks rationalism is just another Luther, another Protestant, protesting against reason and logic. Another person that believes that something other than reason is the way to understand reality, that something other than reason is the truth. What is this thing that is not rational yet is more truthful than reason? It surely can't be subjective, fallible, unreliable human faith. It surely can't be subjective, fallible, unreliable human experience. It surely can't be the subjective, fallible, unreliable human senses. It surely can't be the subjective, fallible, unreliable, mystical human intuitions. It surely can't be subjective, fallible, unreliable, man-made languages and the bizarre thoughts they generate. All of these are fundamentally irrational, subjective, and illogical and are no possible basis of truth, knowledge and understanding. The idea that humans have access to something truer than reason and logic is comical. You would need to be utterly irrational and illogical to believe it. Sadly, that's exactly what nearly all human beings are. Terence McKenna said, "The great evil that has been allowed to flourish in the absence of mathematical understanding is relativism." And what is relativism? It's the idea that there is no distinction between shit and shinola, that all ideas are somehow operating on equal footing. Shit and shinola are exactly what you get as soon as you turn your back on reason and logic, on rationalism and mathematics. Prayer is not about reason and logic. Meditation is not about reason and logic. Sensory experiments are not about reason and logic. Shamanism is not about reason and logic. Magic is not about reason and logic. The occult is not about reason and logic. As soon as you embark on any of these paths, you are totally lost. You will never discover the truth. You will instead believe the lie, whatever lie you have sold yourself. It will of course be an entirely irrational and illogical belief system to which you subscribe. After all, you have rejected reason and logic as the means of establishing truth. Yet you will denounce rationalists as being wrong, even though, by your admission, what you are saying is entirely irrational. You can't be rational if you actively oppose rationalism, can you? So why don't you go back under your irrational rock and not trouble yourself with truth? You are definitely not in the truth game. You are in the business of loving whatever irrational junks floats your boat, and it will usually be something to do with God, or love and light, or bare consciousness, or human perceptions, or human experiences, or wokeness, or whatever, all the usual human drivel. Enough already with your gibberish. You may fool yourselves that something other than reason and logic is the path to the truth, but that's purely because you yourself are irrational and illogical, and you are convinced by arguments that don't make any sense. The fact that you are persuaded by illogic and unreason does not mean you are right. It means you are wrong, that you are defective, that you reject the rational for the irrational and the logical for the illogical. That's on you. That's your choice. But the very idea that you can use irrational and illogical arguments to attack reason and logic is surely something that, deep down, you understand to be absurd. Imagine a math exam where students reject the right answer and all give different wrong answers. Then they all claim that they are right and math is wrong. They claim their intuition is superior to math. They claim they have a higher connection with truth than math, reason and logic, and that their answers, all wrong and all different, are obviously correct. That's the lunatic gospel of subjectivism and relativism, of New Age narcissism, of love and light baloney. That's shit and shinola in its purest form. Go on, tell us that reason and logic are wrong because you studied at Hogwarts under the indigo wave. Tell us that one day when you meditated and smoked some weed the answer to existence manifested itself to you. Tell us that you have had a personal experience of your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Or Lord Krishna, or Lord Buddha, or whatever other lunatic captured your mad, sad, defective mind. Let's get this clear once and for all. If you are opposed to reason and logic, you are ipso facto a nutcase. They ought to put mad people in asylums. Instead, they let them post trolling remarks on social media, proving once and for all that they are perfect exemplars of the Dunning-Kruger effect and suffer from illusory intellectual superiority, despite rubbishing reason and logic, the very basis of intelligence, without which humans would be no better than brutes in the jungle. Mathematics, reason and logic landed men on the moon, not prayer, or meditation, or mysticism, or subjective human experiences, or man-made language. Wake up. Get real. Stop believing your own mad propaganda. To attack reason and logic is to self-identify as an idiot who has no clue about reality and expects others to accept irrational and illogical garbage as the explanation of reality. You're only fooling yourselves. You're only harming yourselves. The moment you turn away from reason and logic, you are an enemy of the truth and a zealot for the lie. There is only one truth, but infinite lies. All the lies are all the false answers to the math problem. They are all the crazy answers people give to the question of existence because they didn't understand the question and couldn't work through the problem in a rational and logical way to get the right answer. So they just reinterpreted the question and gave their own bullshit non-answer and non-explanation. Then they proclaimed they were enlightened. What a joke. If Jesus Christ was the Messiah, why did the world not change when he came to earth? Why was he executed as a criminal by the Romans? What kind of Messiah shows up then leaves, and absolutely nothing has changed? The Jews, after Jesus, were still under Roman occupation. The slaves still had their masters. The world was still shit. The poor were still poor. The miserable were still miserable. The world was still hell. Jesus Christ has to qualify as the worst Messiah ever. The very definition of a non-Messiah or anti-Messiah. If the Lord Buddha was enlightened, how come he left no rational and logical explanation of reality? All he blabbered on about was his own psychology, his own suffering, and his own subjective experiences, which any rationalist dismisses instantly. Delude yourself, lie to yourself, tell yourself whatever you want to hear, or submit to the truth, to reason and logic, which are ontologically expressed through mathematics. It's entirely your choice. Never forget that admitting you are irrational and illogical and reject rationalism is not a good look. It means you are committed to making irrational and illogical arguments, while expecting others to believe and accept them. Why should they? You yourself have acknowledged that what you are saying is irrational and illogical. You have discredited and refuted yourself from the get-go. A fundamental issue is that the average person has no idea what reason is, what logic is, and what mathematics is. Therefore, they have no understanding of what rationalism is. This means they are attacking something they have wholly failed to understand. They are attacking their own straw man, their own invention, their own irrational and illogical belief about what rationalism is. Reason is ontological and the basis of all valid epistemology. If you cannot grasp that, there is no hope for you. It's easy to spot the humans that hate and oppose rationalism. They are feeling types, the love and light gang, sensing types, the worshippers of the cult of scientism, and the mystical intuitives, the worshippers of Eastern religion and those who bizarrely believe that meditating is more useful than mathematics. The rationalists are the thinking types, and they are opposed by all the rest of humanity, irrational humanity.